show you what's been marked as States 320. See if you recognize this document.
This is the disbursement sheet on Christopher Anderson.
All right. Your Honor, this time I'd offer States 320 into evidence.
No additional objection, Your Honor.
Submit it. All right. Again, we have the disbursement sheet. Is that correct?
We do.
All right. And then we have a recovery. Is that correct?
Yes, of $750,000.
And then how much on this disbursement sheet was written to Forge?
$750,000.
Every bit of it.
Yes.
And whose signature is that?
Alec Murdoch's.
Second page.
A check payable to Forge for $750,000.
What's the date on it?
February 20th, 2020.
Did this go to the real Forge or the fake Forge?
It went to his fake Forge personal account.
In this particular case, were there multiple recoveries?
There were multiple recoveries in this one.
All right. So did some of the money actually go to the client back when all of this happened?
Some of the money did go to the client, and when meeting with the client to go over this, he told me that he was unaware of the second settlement.
All right. And how much of the second settlement did Alec Murdoch take?
The 100% of it, the entire $750,000.
What's the date on that?
February 20, 2020.
Do you recognize that signature right there?
That's Alex.
Tony G. All right.
I'm going to show you what's been marked as States 321. See if you recognize this document.
This is a disbursement statement, to Dion
Oh,
Martin.
them Twitch subs dropping off
Your Honor,
fast.
this time
Down to
statement
35.
off for States 321 into
Damn.
evidence.
No additional objection, Your Honor.
Submit it. All right. Looking at this particular one, what's the first name of the client here?
Dion.
All right. And a couple things. First thing I want to ask about is we have right here, what's that third line right there? What does that say?
Says structured for annuity directly to Michael Gunn in the
Remind
amount
the
of,
jury who Michael Gunn is.
he is the owner of
Literally
the Will Forge
nobody that I
Consulting
bought
that would
subs
do
for
structured annuities.
renewed them.
What's for that? Was there
I
any
gifted
actual
multiple
structured
subs to
annuity
people
directly
so
to
they didn't have to
Michael
watch
Gunn?
commercials.
We were
in
able to
which
verify later
none of
that
them
there was no
renewed
structured
renewed
annuity
them.
to Michael Gunn.
I'm doing that again.
And what was the effect of having that line in this disbursement sheet when it was prepared by the defendant and his staff?
You can see a line where the payment says settlement proceeds structured annuity
All right, we're down to
500
3
out.
viewers. Not going to do this for 3 viewers. We know we're not doing that. What are we going to watch today? I'm not watching that for 3 people, man. I'm sorry, especially when no one's talking. I'll just clout chase off the title. Fuck it. Fuck it. Simply not that interested into it. I would be interested into it if you were, but if you're not, I'm not going to sit here by myself watching that shit. I'm a lonely housewife over here. The ones that are interested, or they already have like their families and whatever stream they're watching it in. I mean, they know that their people are in law and crime or whatever. You do, man. Well, the illness is more entertaining when all they're talking about is the shit they're talking about now. I really don't give a shit. I get it. The guy stole a shit ton of money. He tried to hide it. I don't need to hear any more about that part of it. That happened. He stole a bunch of money. He tried to hide it. I mean, what? Well, okay, we get it. He stole some fucking money. A lot of it. Why do you have to fucking talk about it for 2 days straight? I thought this was a murder trial. Fuck. I'm so flared up right now. I'm not sleeping good at all, dude. I'm drinking too much, and it's caused me to flare up fucking really bad, apparently. It must be it. So, gotta knock that shit out. Drooling myself all fucking night. My streaming career dying has me drinking way too much, honestly. By afternoon, the fucking viewership is fucking shit, and I start getting drunk, dude. That's pretty much what it boils down to at this point. I'm bored as shit in the afternoon, so I drink to get over it. Because people aren't here anymore. There's nothing to watch either. It's fuck, man. I get it. But my health is being sacrificed over this shit. I ain't getting paid hardly anything to do it. The subs are dropping on Twitch, so the donos are pretty much they're non-existent. I get like $10 a day to stream, if that. That's on a good day. On a good day, I make $10. I spend more than that in electricity, dude. Well, it's close to that. My electrical bill is like $200 a month. And it's mostly because of the lighting, the PC, the monitors, primarily. A lot to do with it, because they're running so long. Everything's running so fucking long. The amount of money I'm putting into this, man, I don't know, I'm starting to feel like a fucking idiot. $1,000 a year roughly I spend on Discord. Nobody uses it. I fucked up so much. I fucked up this thing too much, I guess. My arrogance, my shit talking. My outbursts, my tantrums. I fucked it up. I fucked it up so bad, dude. I had something good going for a while. Man, oh man, holy shit, did I fuck it up. I would have never thought it was possible to be where I was at during the People's Convoy and all that. Right back to here. I didn't think it had. I didn't think it was possible, man. Well, if anybody can do it, I can. Thought that I busted out of this shit. I thought I was busted out of the 6-viewer Andy world, you know? Thought we were out of this. I thought all the fucking time I had spent doing this and everything, the money and the time, man, you know, that's what it all boils down to. I thought all of that had finally paid off, dude. I didn't have to worry anymore about it being this, dude. Oh my god. I can't believe it happened, dude. Man, other streamers hardly even come through here anymore. Back then, though, they were like clout chasing off me. You had Weird Girl coming through here like, hey, I can't believe we weren't friends before. Why weren't we friends long ago? You know, all of a sudden I'll have 200 people in here. Everybody wanted to be my buddy, right? Now the viewers on here, everybody's just like, man, that guy. We had people that weren't even like, they weren't even on our side that they were coming through here just because there were so many people here. The opposition was popping up. Now there'll be like nobody here, and then America, Black House America will be here, the only one talking. Fucking awkward. Or Anthony Aguero will be the only one talking in here. Holy fucking shit, what happened, man? Anthony Aguero the other day was like, hey man, you should check out this auditor. He's fucking got some action. He kept doing it. I had to time his ass out. Fucking trying to steal people. Like, I don't watch auditors for one. And I heard you the first time. You don't come in here blasting someone else's channel over and over, especially if I don't like that kind of content, dude. I thought that was pretty well known. I don't watch auditors. I've watched them, but I don't watch them like that. Like, I watch them every now and then, like, man, look at this asshole. You know, it's not because I like them. I'm not kind of like, yeah, I wanted them. I'm more like, yeah, well, look at this asshole. He's going to cause there to be extra legislation because they're going to need to figure out how to get rid of these people. Auditors cause more laws, dude. They think that they're keeping our freedoms. They think that by them doing that, they're holding people accountable. But by them doing that, I think who they're doing it to is thinking of ways to make it so that they can't do it. Therefore, create legislation. I had a phone call this morning. I gotta check to see who this was. I had a phone call at 8 something. That doesn't happen. It's a local call too. Looks like it's a business. That's not one I need to worry about. It's an 83-year-old. 83-year-old female just called me. The bachelor's degree, and That's the owner with a different phone number. No message. Plus, I got this whole thing, this whole situation with what's happening with owner transfer here. And I got asshole surgery soon, actually. That's something to look forward to. How many people in your life you know have asshole surgery on the leisure? And I don't know if it's going to happen in a week, but they're going to look at my asshole in a week. That's always fun too, isn't it? It sucks, dude. You got to go in and you got to like drop your pants, and then they tell you just to push. Okay, now push like you're taking a poop. And then I got to push out the hemorrhoid. Well, at first he sticks this thing up my ass that looks like a cone, kind of, so that he can see with his whatever he's looking with. And then once he's got all that lube all over it, then he tells me to push it out so he can see like how much it pushes out. Then they figure out what they were going to want to do with it. That's so embarrassing, dude. And there's usually two people looking at it, him and his helper. It's going to be okay. I know it's the second time I'm doing it. And that's why I know what's going to happen. Then I got to push it back in, you know what I mean? With my hand in front of him. And it's fucking weird, dude. Homoerotic situation. He sticks some shit up my ass. Then I got to play with my own ass. Oh, super lubed too. Oh my god. They busting the KY out. And then he'll tell me what's next. What they're going to do. And I'm pretty sure that's going to hurt, whatever it is. And once it's over with, I'll be able to work out again. I'll be able to do cardio. Right now, I'm getting fucking fat drinking lots of alcohol. I can't do cardio. I can't dude, I can't go to the store without my ass getting fucked up. It's that bad. I know this is probably TMI, but y'all don't know this is going on with me. Most people don't. If I go to the store, if I walk too much, my asshole comes out. You don't want this problem. I'd rather me have it and tell you about it. So, yeah. It can happen to the best of us, man. I'm not the best either, so it can definitely happen to other people. Yeah, I think they'll get fixed up soon. I'm just kind of nervous about what's going to entail with that. What are they going to cut me? Are they going to cut that? Because if so, I'm not through with the hardest part of this. If I got to shit through a cut asshole, felt that. It was like, I don't know what they're going to use. There's multiple things they can do. They can even band it where they put like a rubber band around it and it just cuts the blood circulation off. It, I guess, depends on what exactly they find whenever they get in there. How bad it is. I wonder if they give me opiates or something. They might just give me lidocaine lube or something. Pour it in there. Yeah, probably alright. Just tripping on it. Just tripping on it because like I don't have like most people have like family and shit that they're like, hey man, I'm stuff going. I don't have that. I don't have family that wants to hear about any of my problems. Not that you want to hear about them, but I gotta get it out. I gotta get it out, man. I've been thinking about it a lot lately, dude. It's getting worse daily as I get closer to the appointment. It's not getting better, so. I should have gotten it done a year ago. That's when I had it looked at it originally, and they gave me like fiber to drink. That didn't work. I made the shit worse. It was making me poop too much. Yeah, I mean, it's partially why I sit like this. I've said that before. Like I sit like this for a reason. First smoke of the day. I'm the Pillsbury Doughboy. What's up? Yeah, I get it because I see it. Like I'm taking it out on new guys because I'm not talking to anybody else. I'm taking it out on these realtors. Like anybody I talk to, I'm taking out all this shit on my flare ups. I'm taking out on people. That man, not your fault. If anything, you're the only thing keeps me sane around all this shit. And I go and get on here and I go off on everybody, and then I have less support, and it makes it even worse on me. Like I am such a train wreck. A lot of people probably just think though that because I don't talk about the stuff that I'm just a grumpy asshole that likes going off on people constantly. I really don't. I mean, I can see how it looks like that though. I'm very good with dealing with all the stress, man. I'm not getting laid either. You know what I'm saying? A lot of people, dang, he really needs to get laid. Yeah, I'm probably one of those dudes. I haven't had sex. You want to know how long? Yeah, this is gonna blow your mind, dude. I'm virginized for sure. I haven't had sex since I've lived here. I moved here at the end of 2016. That's pretty good, huh? That's some sort of record. I used to be a whore, actually. I've been with probably 40 to 50 women. Um, being tall helps. I wasn't afraid to get on the dance floor. Plus, I get swaggered. I get swaggered out when I need to. But that's previous life. 2018. That's sweet though. COVID changed things. It did. It did actually. But I hadn't been with anybody for a while already. Um, partially for like I was choosing that. I could have gotten laid. I definitely could have gotten laid, but I didn't want to get with those people. I had people on dating apps that were like pretty much telling me I was trying to smash. And I was like, yeah, I'm sorry, it's the teeth. I got a thing with teeth, man. If you got black spots on your teeth, I can't fuck with it. I'm sorry. You got to take care of them cavities first. One time I did lower my standards on someone that had messed up teeth, and they were bad. It was in Fort Collins, Colorado. I was up there at a club, and it's near the Wyoming border. Give you an idea where it's at. And I was at a club with a German. He had a visa to work out here, and he was really tall too. We would tell people we were like sports players and shit, and they would actually believe us. But we only did that like once at the bar just to see if they'd believe us, and they did. We told them we were bench warmers for some team. But it wasn't this night that happened. We both hooked up with chicks. He got the hot chick, and I got the grenade, right? So I dove on the grenade for him, and like I was even making out with this chick, and I was drunk, dude. I had to be for this one, taking one for the team. So we ended up leaving with them and going back to one of their places that we were both like getting it on in the separate bedrooms, and like I'm noticing that her teeth look kind of weird, like maybe like she has braces or something, but I can't really tell because it's dark, and she's kind of hiding them. Well, we wake up the next morning. The next morning, dude, I see her teeth, dude, and they were like non-existent nubs and shit. Right? They weren't whole teeth. And I'm like, what the fuck is happening, dude? What is like? They're all of them. I'm like, And I find out that she was like bulimic or something, or had some kind of illness to where she was like puking so much that her stomach acid had eaten away all of her teeth, dude. It was like I was kissing Sloth from Goonies or something. Like I don't like it was like, and she wanted a relationship with me after that, dude. Because like I didn't say anything that day. I just was kind of like, whoa, I didn't want to hurt her feelings. But and then we're talking on the phone. She was wanting to stay in contact because I guess she was like, wow, this guy's into me. He was willing to like look past my teeth. Little does she know I wasn't. So she was like trying to get a relationship going, and I'm like, about that. I don't think I can do that. I was honest with her, dude. I was honest. I'm too real sometimes, dude. And I told her, it's like, it's your teeth. I'm sorry. It's like, well, I'm gonna get them fixed. I'm like, they're not fixed now. They're not fixed now, though. Like, don't be dating people. If you got nubs for teeth, you shouldn't even be at the club, man. Figure your teeth situation out. You shouldn't be drinking. You shouldn't be partying. You should be working double time. You should be figuring out how to get to the dentist. You know what I mean? No, you don't go. You don't go in a dark environment kissing folks. That's for sure. So that was my story on that one. That was the one time where I gave one a chance, but I was like I couldn't do it. Only because she was the grenade, though, and I was looking out for my boy, and we were way too drunk that night. That kind of happened. I can't do that. I can't do the teeth thing. That's one of those things. If you got anything black on your teeth or they're corroding, I can deal with crooked teeth. That's different. The crooked teeth, as long as they're clean, I can tell you've been taking care of your mouth. You can't afford to have an orthodontist. I understand that. You can't afford to have toothpaste. We got a problem. felt bad about that one here, though. The one here that was wanting to hook up. And she was actually from Memphis, too. That was what was wild, man. She was from Memphis, so we had a lot. We would have had so much to talk about. But I could tell she didn't want to just be friends, and it would have pained her to just be friends because she was really trying to fuck. She was sending me pictures of her tits and shit. And then when I let her know, like, I wasn't really, she let me know, God, I was trying to fuck. She straight told me, dude. I was like, that was like a last ditch effort. Some girls are horny, man. A lot of women are horny out there. They just keep a secret. They don't want to look like it. Welcome to the Murdahl trial, by the way. No, for real. Yeah, no, some girls are. Look at the women on Chatterbait, bro. They're beating off all day. I don't even do that. Those, dude, there are way more women in the world beating off all day long than there are dudes. So, now that I think about it, they're more horny than we are. Most of them, in general, because there are probably 10 times as many girls beating off right now than there are dudes. Live, on camera, for everyone to see. Now that's the ultimate in horny. Because, I mean, that dude that's beating off outside in public, you're going to be thinking, oh, whoa, he's too horny. Well, they're doing that same thing. Beating off in public. The guys are doing it more in private. I'd say that's less horny. And less desperate, you money-hungry bitches. Fuck out of here. Increasing your OnlyFans prices and shit after 1 month. Thinking someone's gonna pay that increase. You ain't worth it. Your pussy is a dime a dozen. Check this out. That's for all women. Your pussy ain't special. Well, it is special. It's got a special shape to it. But there's so many pussies out there, especially in America. Now you go to Afghanistan, there are 105 men to every 100 women. That's a problem. That's why gay is illegal as shit out there. Because Dick is driving that car, and the women need to be, like, they're trying to keep it so that the women ain't turning gay, and then there's less women for the dudes. And they need the dudes to be fucking the women so that they can have more women. And they like them young. They like them like 15 and 13 and shit out there. Probably not quite as young as the Philippines like them, though. They might still be holding out at the 12 for legal age of consent. Oh, it moved up. Oh, it moved up. Philippines President Rodrigo Duterte has signed into a new law that raises the minimum age of sexual consent from 12 to 16. His office said on Monday in a bid to protect minors from rape and sexual abuse. That just happened, 2022. Awesome, dude. That's a start. 16 still kind of young, though. But 12. 12, dude? It was 12 until last year. So if you meet a first generation Filipino person here, their family, they might be thinking a little differently. Actually, and here's why I say that. I got a crazy story with this one. Ex-girlfriend story, right? This is wild. Since there's only 6 people here. Check it. One morning, I got up early, and she was still sleeping. And I got on my laptop and was searching YouTube. By the way, she was a volleyball player. All right, check this out. I'm searching, and I'm looking at. I thought I was on my account, and I was going to look at something I had looked at earlier, and I went to my history, and it was not my account. And I'm noticing really weird history though, right off the rip. But like really young volleyball player games in Asia was one, and I'd never seen her watch anything like that. And then I kept looking, and then there was like mother-son play, brother-sister play, kids like, it was weird. It was weird. It was weird, and it was an older son sucking on a titty. You know what I mean? That kind of thing too. And I'm just like, I go straight to her, and I'm like, "Hey, what is this? What are you looking at, man? We I got her out of bed. I brought her into the living room. I was like, what the fuck are you looking at? What is this shit?" Here's what happened. This is gonna freak you out, dude. It freaked me out. I know that. She had just been home, and she left her laptop, and her dad used it. I'd been to Catholic church with this dude sitting next to him. For whatever reason, we did that one day. Before that, I think, before I saw that, I can't remember before or after either. I mean, just like, and then I started thinking, like, what has happened in your I even asked her, I was like, did he do something to you in your childhood? What happened? Did he get you and your brother to play with each other or something? I didn't even know about this 12-year-old, the 12 age of consent at the time either. I had no idea that was a thing. So yeah, she denied it, but I still to this day, I don't know, man. You know, because she had two older brothers, dude. Older brothers. Let's leave it at that. I don't know. I'll never know, dude. And it always bothered me. Right, dude. After that, it like the relationship wasn't the same. I was just kind of like, because I didn't think she was being honest with me. I thought maybe she had some scarring from something. I didn't, and I'll never know. Maybe she didn't. But the chances of that being the case after seeing that and knowing that she's got older brothers that could have, like, she would have been, I think it was like 8 years younger or 10 years younger or something like that. So they could have, after seeing, well, especially now after seeing what I've seen on Omegle and babies get messed with on Omegle, and kids get exploited, especially in the Philippines. There's no telling what she might not remember also. So yeah, I don't know, man. It kind of fucked up the whole relationship seeing that shit, honestly. That was the moment where it was like, I didn't know what to believe. I didn't know, and that was the last major relationship I've ever been in. We went on a long distance road trip across the country after seeing that, even 10,000-mile road trip. I saw more of America with her than anybody else. We saw so much. Even Canada. The only time I've been to Canada was with her. We did a lot of things. Sucks. Omegle? Yeah, about that. You probably shouldn't even know. Why do you know how to spell it, though? Lucky guess. I do. I do talk to her. I mean, vaguely, not really. Just kind of like a, how you doing? Kind of like a, make sure. I got really drunk the other night and asked her if we were still friends. I sent like 3 different people. Are we still friends? Are we still friends? Are we still friends? You messaged me like, yeah, why, man? You know, with those drunken nights. You never had one of those. That's all I said, though. I didn't go in on anything else. I just said that and left it. And one of them's good. We've connected a little bit more on another platform, so maybe I'll be able to contact him. And the other one, we talked a little bit on there. I found out her mom's dealing with cancer, though. I think she's had pancreatic cancer, and that's a bummer. And her sister's married now, man. Her sister was like 17. She done moved to another state. Now she's married. That's wild. Man, people are in such a hurry, you know? So, like, a lot of people are in a hurry to get started, to get their life so busy with kids and marriage and the rigmarole, right? Word. All dude, I shower, okay? I take a shower every day, by the way. If I'm here in front of this camera, I've taken a shower. I can't. I wouldn't feel right here. All nasty as shit. I might have the same hoodie on, but underneath I'm clean, and I have a different T-shirt on too. From the Global Dance Festival. It was 2015. Red Rock, July 17th, 19th. I had like front row tickets for it. Second row. Both actually, depending on the night. Ha! Dude, this. Yeah, anyway. I talked about this night one night. Like somebody I met here that gave me a pill that I had to bite half of it off, and so to prove to him that I was cool, so that he like would trust me. It was wild because he had to connect on some things. I ended up getting to connect on some things later on though that he couldn't get, so I ended up hooking him up. Ironic. He ended up getting a lot of trouble up in New York though, selling the same shit. Maybe not the same exact ones, but he was trafficking from the Texas Mexican border. I don't know what the fuck they got him for up in Texas or up in New York, but it might have got him for trafficking. I know he was looking at some time. That was wild, dude. He got bailed out. We hung out afterwards. I was nervous that he thought that I had something to do with him getting arrested, even. You know, because I didn't. He seemed cool, but like, who knows, man? Maybe he was just acting like that. Next thing you know, I'm coming for me. Oh, that was a weird situation. He seemed cool though, man. It's alright. He was nice to his dog. That was a good sign. Red Rocks, it used to be better. Unfortunately, the sound ordinances that they have imposed since Space Nectar, Space Nectar pissed him off really bad, dude. Space Nectar pisses every venue off that's outdoor. Because the neighboring community always complains. Thing is, with Base Center, they complained 4.5 miles away because they thought it was an earthquake. So that ruined it for that one. At least we were there for it. I was there for it. You were there for it too. It's on YouTube. The finale. Man, that was epic. That's one of the shows you needed hearing protection for, which I have. You can get, you know what? PSA. Quick little PSA. If you haven't heard of these. Alright, so these things right here. If you go to shows, yeah, I'll show you the video in a second. If you go to shows, these are Music Safe Pro Alpines. These are actually for going to concerts, right? Because they let, dude, it's been so long since I've been in a show, I forgot how to open them. Okay. So see, they're earplugs, but they have different filters for them. Like you have a white, a gray, and a black. Black, black or gold. I think golds might block the most. So they block different amounts of sound. So if the show's like super loud and you don't want to lose your hearing, but you want to have a good time and feel the bass, dude, these are a must. You don't want to ever go to a Bass Center show without these. But like just regular earplugs, but I would prefer the real deal with these, for one, because they're comfortable and they don't block out all the, like, regular earplugs, which they'll pass around in these shows because they're needed. They block out everything. They muffle the shit out of the music. These almost will feel like you're not wearing earplugs at some point. It's like, damn, man, are these even working? So it's not so intrusive. Sometimes you might need the other ones though too, depending on how close you are to the front. Yeah, I got these because I was going to so many loud shows for a while there. Oh, why there's 3 of them? Maybe it just came with an extra in case I lost one. That's kind of cool. I didn't realize that happened. All the plugs are there. It comes with a little lanyard so you can have them around your neck also, so you don't lose them. And I think they were like $20 back in the day. But also, they don't look as goofy as those orange ones. And those orange ones get kind of gross too, because they get like your earwax all over them, and they're kind of hard to use. And if your hands are dirty, you don't really want to be doing that with your earplug and sticking it back inside your ear, do you? These, you don't have to worry about that so much because how they're made, how they. Dude, when do we get some more Gaza Strip footage? That shit was always wild. You know? Not that I want you to blow up, because they hit the Iron Dome. Here's the difference. You might not know what the difference is. So you got Gaza Strip, and you got Jerusalem, or Israel, right? And Jerusalem or Israel, they have the Iron Dome. Iron Dome, that protects them. We gave them that. Gaza Strip, they don't have that, right? So whenever you hear the prayer to calls, they happen at like 4 or 5 times a day. It's that over a speaker. They sound way cooler though. It's eerie, especially when there's no other sounds with that dude. And then Gaza starts shooting. They don't have the Iron Dome, so when they get hit, it's kind of a bummer. You see shit explode more. But during prayer to call, that's missile time. Because you know what I'm saying? They're praying over the missiles. They do that type of thing. Like they're doing Allah Akbar. giving them more guidance of Allah. So it's so wild to watch, dude. When Reuters is out there on top of one of the buildings and the prayer call's going, and then the and you're like, woof. Hope the Iron Dome gets them. There they go. Like, and they could be going to Tel Aviv. They could be going to Jerusalem. It's really quite impressive, the armament that Gaza has. Where are they getting it from? Iran? They're getting some impressive long-range missiles, though. To go, how? Let me see. Let me see how long. I feel like they're able to go like 50 to 100 miles. The West Bank could be shooting them too, though. So I'll put West Bank to Tel Aviv. But weren't they hitting? Weren't they hitting somewhere else too, though? How far was that? Okay, that's only 74 kilometers. Okay, so that's not too bad. What's the farthest they shoot them? Because the Gaza Strip and the West Bank, dude, are right. Or maybe they're mostly from the Gaza Strip, actually. Okay, here we go. Range of missile launched from Gaza Strip is 10 to 160 kilometers. So that's roughly 80 miles. That's still pretty far, right? 160 kilometers miles. Oh, that's 100 miles. There you go. 100 miles. So yeah, they must be getting, let's see. Iran. Called it. Okay. Little history lesson there. We had a little, well, it's actually not a history lesson. It's current. Palestinian rocket arsenal used in the Arab or Israeli conflict includes a wide range of rockets, missiles varying in design, size, and payload capacity. Palestinian rockets include those locally made in Gaza, and the West Bank, as well as weapons smuggled from Iran and Syria. Syria! Is this the country we're about to send money to rebuild because of the earthquakes? They are sending missiles to shoot Israel. What are we doing? Why would we even consider that? Or are we just going to give Turkey money? You heard Biden say yesterday, right? We got to talk about giving them aid. What does aid mean? Sounds expensive. So, in other words, we might give Syria money so that they don't have to spend their missile money on it. That way they can spend their missile money on missiles and send them to the Palestinians to shoot at Jerusalem, and then we can send Jerusalem more missiles for the Iron Dome to protect them from the missiles that we're shooting missiles at ourselves, dude. We're paying for both sides to shoot missiles that we're about to. Watch, if we give Syria money, that's what's going to happen. Nobody reminded me, Mark. One person reminded me about Base Sector, and that was Sunday. It was live. It was an old show. It was like 2018. I wasn't at that one. Were you? I wasn't too excited about it, especially if he's only going to be playing shows from 2018 on. That's going to piss me off. Supposedly he only has like 10 or 11 of these shows saved. And if they're all past when I stopped going, then why is it for all the new people he only has the shows for? You need to go back in time a little bit, dude. Some of the Red Rock shows, that'd be cool. They'd be saving them. It also says in the fine print that I'm not supposed to, and they can cancel my membership if I do. Do you know the XXXTentacion murder case is happening, by the way?
Instagram account by the name of Tattoo Man Chucky has Dedrick is Dedrick's Instagram account, and they see that the person in the surveillance video is wearing these very distinct orange slides. Orange, they're like Crocs or sandals, but very distinct orange. And police see on Instagram, Dedrick Williams has these very distinct orange slides. And police go to Dedrick's house, they search his house, they search his car, and they arrest Mr. Williams. The entire search of Dedrick's house, they do not find anything linking Michael Boatwright. The entire search of Dedrick's car, they do not find anything linked to Michael Boatwright. It is at this point that police learn three very important facts. One, they learned that the woman who actually rented that Dodge Journey, the Journey that we see in the surveillance video, was a woman named Tony Robinson. And she tells police that the day before the murder that she was with two other individuals who rented the car with her. She says one of them was Robert Allen. She says one of them was someone named Boatwright. So that was essentially
Should I cover this trial?
instance one for BSO regarding someone named Boatwright. Two, police search Dedrick Williams' cell phone. And in Dedrick Williams' cell phone, they find a name, Lil Boat, with the phone number 754-207-1410. And third, the reason that Michael sits in this chair is police get the phone records for 754-207-1410. And those phone records ping to a tower near Riva Motorsports. And from there, with BSO, it was full-on tunnel vision. A phone that Michael used was at the scene of the crime.
I can't tell.
He must have been there.
How would it started?
And so on July 5th, 2018, Michael's in a car. He is stopped. He is
It's
arrested.
opening statement.
There are two phones that are found in his possession, and police search one of them that has the number 754-207-1410. In this phone, they
This
find
looks like
some
jury-
photos that Michael had.
I need to look at this.
When the judge I would.
I need to see where they're at.
Let me start with my introductory comments to you, and then we'll go into the opening.
It is opening
Ladies and
statement.
gentlemen of the jury, you have been selected and sworn as the jury to try the case of the state of Florida versus Michael Boatwright, Trayvon Newsome, and Dedrick Williams. This is a criminal case, and the defendants have been charged with the crimes of first-degree murder with a firearm and armed robbery with a firearm. The definition of the elements of each of these crimes will be explained to you in great detail later in the trial. It shall be your solemn responsibility to determine if the state has proven its accusations beyond and to the exclusion of every reasonable doubt against the defendant. Your verdict must be based solely upon the evidence or the lack of evidence and the law. The indictment, the charging document in this case, is not evidence and should not be considered by you as any proof of guilt. Now, it will be my responsibility to decide which laws apply to this case and to explain those laws to you. It will be your responsibility to decide what the facts of the case are and to apply the law to those facts of our system of justice. Before proceeding further, it will be helpful if you understand how a trial is conducted. You get to make their final or closing arguments to you. And following the arguments, questions in the presence about the case. Only upon the evidence presented, any cell phone, the internet, any electronic device, or any other means at all to get information related to this case or the people and places that are involved in this case. And this rule will continue to apply whether you're at the courthouse, at home, or anywhere else. You must not visit any of the places that are mentioned during the trial or use the internet to find maps or to see pictures of any place that's discussed during the trial. Jurors must not have discussions of any sort with friends or family members about the case or the people and places involved. So you must not let even your closest family members make comments to you or ask you questions about our trial. And in this age of electronic communication, I need to stress again that just as you must not talk about this case face-to-face with anyone, you must not talk about this case through the use of an electronic device. You must not use phones, computers, or other electronic devices to communicate about the case. Do not send or accept any messages related to this case or about your jury service. Do not disclose this, do not discuss this case, or ask for advice by any means at all, including posting information on an internet website, chat with these defendants about any subject matter. Fairness of our proceedings. A mistrial could result that would require the entire process to start. All cell phones, computers, tablets, or any other electronic device must be turned off while you are in the courtroom. Turned off means that the phone or other device is actually off and not just in silent or vibrate mode. Now you may use these devices during any recess, but even then you may not use your cell phone or device to find out any information about the case or communicate with anyone about any of your fellow jurors. After each recess, please double check to make sure that your cell phone or electronic device is in an emergency during trial, during deliberations, during anything else. They can leave a message with my chambers and make sure family members or anyone who might need to get a hold of you in an emergency knows. Now, if you'd like to take notes during our trial, you may do so. On the other hand, you're not required to take notes if you do not want to do that. That's left up to you individually. I have provided you each with a notepad and a pen for your use if you wish to take notes. And any notes that you do take are for your personal use. However, you may not take your notes with you from the courtroom. Now, after both sides have rested and you retire to deliberate, you will be allowed to take your notes with you into the deliberation room. You're going to deliver your notes to me, and I'm going to have them destroyed without looking at them. So you can rest assured, no one will ever read your notes except you. If you do take notes, please do not.
Is that normal?
Finish your deliberations. The deputy is going to deliver your notes to me, and I'm going to have them destroyed without looking at them. So you can rest assured, no one will ever read your notes except you.
Is that normal that they destroy the jurors' notes?
If you do take
What if they wanted to use those to write their book?
notes, please do not get so involved in the note-taking process that you become distracted from our proceedings. Remember, your notes should be used only as an aid to your memory. Your memory of the events is what you should basically rely on. Whether or not you take notes, again, you should rely on your memory of the evidence, and you should not be unduly influenced by your notes or the notes of another juror should they choose to share them. Notes are not entitled to any greater weight than each juror's memory of the evidence. In every criminal proceeding, a defendant has the absolute right to remain silent. At no time is it the duty of a defendant to prove his or her innocence. And from the exercise of a defendant's right to remain silent, a jury is not permitted to draw any inference of guilt, and the fact that a defendant does or does not take the witness stand must not influence your verdict in this manner, in any manner whatsoever. Finally, the attorneys are trained in the rules of evidence and trial procedure. It's their duty to make all objections they feel are proper. And when an objection is made, you should not speculate on the reason why it was made, and likewise, when an objection has been sustained or upheld by me, you must not speculate on what might have occurred had the objection not been sustained, nor what a witness might have said had they been permitted to answer. And usually I like to add on
Act like a
at this point
robot.
and say this. None of you are professional jurors, and most of the witnesses who come in are witnesses. They may or may not have ever testified in the case before. Unlike the attorneys, you folks and those folks are not trained in the rules of evidence. Now, attorneys, they receive lots of training and have spent years trying to understand what the rules of evidence allow and don't allow. And I kind of liken it to this. Do any of you have a dog or cat at home? Are you familiar with, like with a dog, if there's a loud sound, their ears actually will go up, right? And I don't know if you've noticed, but cats, they have a pretty cool thing. They have like a telescoping ear, right? Sound comes over here, they can actually move their ear to that side to go over by the sound. Yeah, funny but true that trial attorneys have become like dogs and cats. When they hear something objectionable, their ear becomes really big and it focuses in, immediately they know. And so when a question that they believe might be objectionable is asked, the ear gets big, it telescopes over, they pop up say objection. And sometimes before I've even had a chance to rule, the person on the stand, not having the telescoping ear or the benefit of the years of practice that they've had, simply responds to the question that was asked of them because there was a dialogue going on. And if I should sustain that objection, but the witness inadvertently blurted out an answer, I'm going to ask that you disregard that answer. Now, it is often said that a bell cannot be unrung, and so I can't, turn the tape back and pull that sound away from you. You've heard it. But it is not impossible for people of reasonable intelligence to disregard something once they've been ordered to do so. So I want all of you to be able to assure me that if I tell you to disregard something, first of all, forget it, put it out of your mind. And secondly, if you are in deliberations and someone should bring up something that was brought out and objected to, and that objection was sustained, and I told you to disregard, it would be incumbent upon you to tell your fellow juror, wait a minute, the judge told us to disregard that and play no role in our deliberation. And another juror say, oh, you're right, forget about that. Okay, can you all do that? Yes, I'm sure you can. All right, with those ground rules, we're ready to get underway with the open
Dude, there was a baby born in the rubble. Do you see that one? Oh, it is. I want my notes. Go to my scrapbook. For my secrets. like cleaned up nicely, except for this guy. He's got a fucking tattoo on his face.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, again, in a moment, the council will give you their opening statements. Again, opening statements is an opportunity for the council to advise you what they believe will be presented, and remember, their statements are not evidence. But do listen carefully. Thank you. State the floor, if you wish to open.
Yes, we do.
You may.
Good afternoon.
I should change the title, I guess, dude.
Ladies and gentlemen, you're going to hear testimony and you're going to see evidence about 5 lives. 5 lives that converged on June 18th of 2018, costing the victim in this case, Jahseh Onfroy, his life. The other 4 lives that you're going to hear about are Dedrick Williams, who's on the end over there with the bow tie. You're going to hear about Trayvon Newsome, who's in the middle in gray. And you're going to hear about Michael Boatwright, who has on a turtleneck. You'll also hear about Robert Allen, who's not seated here today, but you'll hear directly from him. He'll testify, he's in custody, and he'll tell you about his role with respect to what happened and the planning and everything that happened with this homicide. Some of the evidence that you're going to hear first starts with the day before June 18th. The day before June 18th, on June 17th, around 8 o'clock at night, you're going to hear from Tanisha Clark. Tanisha Clark has a job, but makes side money by renting out her car to through an app called Turo. You'll hear how Turo is kind of like an Airbnb, but for cars. A person can put their car on the app for rental, and someone on the other end can rent directly from the person who is renting their car through Turo.
Wow.
Tanisha Clark, you'll hear, doesn't know the defendants. She had no connection to this case other than her Dodge Journey. She got prepared for it to be rented for one day. And so when she rents her car, she is greeted by Tony Robinson. You'll hear how Tony Robinson was very close friends with the defendant, Dedrick Williams. She was so close to Dedrick, she actually referred to herself as his sister. They aren't related, but they refer to themselves, she refers to herself as his sister. And so Tony, who rented cars before for Dedrick and his friends, was asked to rent the car for one day. Not because you'll learn that the defendants wanted to go to Disney World or take some trip, but you'll learn through testimony that they wanted to be able to take the car, ride around, and rob people. That was their plan. And so Tony Robinson, when she rents out her car, is greeted by Michael Boatwright, who's on the end here, and is also greeted by Robert Allen, who you're going to hear from Robert Allen himself. They pick up the car, and by the next day, they are out riding around. And Robert Allen will tell you what the purpose was that they were all together, and he'll say that he was with all 3 co-defendants, and that together, their plan was to be able to rob somebody that day, and that they had all of the things in preparation for that. They had firearms, they had masks, and they had the capability of doing it. And so on that day, they drive to Reba Motorsports, and the day that we're talking about is June 18th. On that same day, on June 18th, the morning of, before the homicide occurs, you're going to hear how Jahseh Onfroy, who is commonly referred to as XXXTentacion, woke up that morning, was woken up by his mom. You'll hear how he was a young celebrity rapper who gained his fame through a lot of his exposure through social media and downloads and things like that, and was very much a self-made artist who then rose up the ranks. He was wealthy as a result of his celebrity, and he also had a pregnant girlfriend who was pregnant with his first child. Jahseh that morning decided to go to the bank first. He lived out in Parkland and decided to go to Bank of America. You're going to see some surveillance from that, and you're going to hear from the teller who actually helped him at Bank of America because he was a regular customer. That morning, after going to the bank, his plan was to be able to go to Reba Motorsports. You're going to hear how he's also a regular customer at Reba Motorsports. And at Reba Motorsports, he intended on purchasing motorbikes, plural, possibly 1 or more, and that he'd done that before, and that was something that he wanted to do for himself and his friends. On that particular day that morning, when he went to the bank, his intention was to withdraw $250,000 in cash to be able to make the purchase later on at Reba Motorsports. The bank, you'll hear, did not have that amount on hand, and so they dispensed $50,000 to him from his account of his own money. You'll hear how later in the week, a few days later, he was slated to come back to the bank to collect the rest of the $200,000, and unfortunately, he never made it. What ends up happening after he leaves the bank, he puts the cash in what he often carried with him, which is a Louis Vuitton satchel. Also, you'll hear how his mother that day was concerned about him going to the Reba Motorsports by himself. She wanted him to be accompanied. A, because she knew, she'll tell you, that she expected for him to purchase some motorbikes and needed for him to ride back with someone to ride the motorbike, and someone to be able to drive his car back, because obviously he couldn't do both. So she, you'll hear, asked a gentleman by the name of Leonard Kerr, who is related, not by blood, to the victim in that he is the uncle of Jahseh's younger brother. So Leonard Kerr accompanies Jahseh to Reba Motorsports. And Jahseh, you'll hear, is driving a very expensive car, a BMW i8, which we don't normally see on the road, so it's very easy to spot. It's a sports car that has butterfly doors and is very fast. And Jahseh himself, besides driving this very expensive sports car, is also very identifiable. Besides the fact that he's a celebrity, you'll get to see that at the time of his death, he also wore his hair and hairstyle in blue dreadlocks, so it kind of stood out on top of everything else. And on that day, he traveled to Reba Motorsports unarmed with his, let's call him for lack of a better term, step-uncle, Leonard Kerr, to go purchase these motorbikes. And at that same time that Jahseh and Mr. Kerr are at Reba Motorsports, you'll hear how the 4 co-defendants in this case, the 3 of whom are on trial, traveled in the Dodge Journey to the same Reba Motorsports. And while 2 of the defendants, Robert Allen, who's going to testify, and Dedrick Williams, who's on the end with the bow tie, go inside the store to purchase neoprene masks, they spot Jahseh inside the store. And this is all captured on surveillance, so you'll be able to see this for yourself in addition to hearing testimony about it. And so when they spot Jahseh, who has the blue hair and he has a very expensive gold necklace on and his Louis Vuitton satchel, they immediately, Robert Allen and Dedrick Williams, start communicating to the 2 co-defendants, Trayvon Newsome and Michael Boatwright, who are still in the Dodge Journey waiting for them to come back to the car. And it's the communication, I'm not giving you exact words, but something to the effect of that they spot the victim who's inside Reba Motorsports, and they are automatically spotting the fact that he's a celebrity. And so when Dedrick Williams and Robert Allen go back to the vehicle, now all 4 co-defendants are in the vehicle and the actions are set in motion. You'll hear about the layout of the parking lot of Reba Motorsports. There's only 2 entrances and 1 exit. One of the 2 entrances is one way, and so you can't exit. And the second entrance is an exit and an entrance. And the entire Reba Motorsports has surveillance inside and out. And the parking lot is encased by a fence. And so they are able to position themselves just across the street, and you'll be able to see how the 4 co-defendants in the car, Dedrick Williams, who's driving, by the way, go across the street and back in their car and lie in wait for several minutes for the victim to come out. They're able to easily spot his car because there's no other car like it in the parking lot. And you'll hear how they lie in wait for the victim to come out to exit the only exit of that parking lot. And you'll hear also, more importantly, what the conversation is in the car as they get ready to rob the victim. Michael Boatwright puts on his mask. Trayvon Newsome also puts on a mask. They have hoodies. They arm themselves with firearms. Michael Boatwright gets a firearm. You'll hear how also Trayvon Newsome gets a firearm. Amongst the 4 of them, they decide who's going to jump out. You'll also get to see the differences between the 4, because you'll note that it's very important, the physical differences between the 4. Michael Boatwright is the tallest, skinniest out of the 4. Trayvon Newsome is next as far as height. And there's a big height difference between Michael Boatwright, Trayvon Newsome, and Dedrick Williams, who's the shortest and stocky build. You'll also be able to see that day, Dedrick Williams has tattoos. His nickname is actually Tattoo Chucky. And in addition to the fact that Dedrick Williams is very short in stature and stocky compared to the 2 gunmen, Robert Allen, you'll see, is also short, and he's also overweight, significantly overweight, and more overweight than the 3 co-defendants that are sitting here before you. You'll note that there's a difference in their height, weight, stature, the way they walk, the gait, because as you look at the surveillance, you'll note and you'll hear testimony about who is who and how the difference between the 4 co-defendants of who did what. And so when there comes a point when you're looking at the surveillance and you see 2 tall gunmen jump out of the vehicle, you'll be able to note, I submit to you, that Trayvon Newsome is one of the gunmen and that Michael Boatwright is the other gunman. And so Dedrick Williams, driving, cuts off the victim as he's trying to exit Reba Motorsports. And as just like they planned, they're able to cut off the victim so that he can't move his car without either crashing it or whatever. And the 2 gunmen jump out and immediately put guns in the victim's face and in Leonard Kerr's face. You'll hear testimony about how Leonard Kerr was able to hear what the gunmen were saying to the victim. You'll also hear testimony about how Leonard Kerr ran for his life. And so as Jahseh is there, unarmed, in the driver's seat, surprised by the 2 gunmen in this case, you'll hear how they start struggling with him, punching him, and that both of the gunmen at one point are trying to get his property from him. They're able to wrestle away from him the satchel that had the $50,000 in cash. And without any provocation, without any type of weapons or anything being used by the victim, you'll hear how Michael Boatwright fires several times, killing the victim at close range. You'll also be able to see the surveillance that shows this. Immediately after the homicide, when they leave the victim there to die, the 4 of them leave the scene, and then they divvy up the spoils of their robbery. You'll hear how the $50,000 is allocated between them, directed by Dedrick Williams. Who's going to get what amount of who's going to get what based on their participation. You'll also hear how immediately after the homicide, in addition to divvying up the spoils of the robbery, they then go on social media and start bragging about how they have all this influx of cash. You'll hear how, in addition to bragging on social media with the cash, flashing it as if it's Christmas Day, and being very, you'll be able to tell for yourself in terms of their demeanor and how they acted with the spoils of the robbery. You'll also see that shortly after, they then start to put in a plan, because by now, because of the celebrity of the victim, this was all over the news and the surveillance was all over the news. So then you'll hear how 2 of them immediately hit town. They go out of town to be able to try to get out of Dodge, so to speak. You'll hear testimony about where they go. You'll hear testimony from law enforcement about how all 4 suspects got on their radar, how they were able to be tracked by digital forensics and by some physical evidence that was found later at properties of the defendants. You'll hear in particular how even though Trayvon Newsome and Michael Boatwright are the 2 gunmen in this case, you'll hear how ballistics are found, some firearm ballistics are found at Dedrick Williams' home that is able to be matched to fired projectiles and some evidence that's found from the victim at autopsy and on scene, connecting him to the homicide as well. You'll hear from Riva employees who not only knew the victim, but who can identify and know that Dedrick Williams was a regular customer. They actually even knew his nickname and identify him as being one of the 2 people that came in that day to purchase the neoprene mask. You'll see the Riva surveillance. We'll talk about the layout of the Riva parking lot. And you'll learn exactly which defendant did what, how they helped each other to commit this crime. Williams cutting off the victim, for example, driving and making sure that the victim couldn't get away, while the 2 gunmen are able to accost the victim in a blitz fashion. You will also see how the defendants shoot an unarmed victim several times as he's in his car. You'll also hear about within hours of the homicide how the Dodge Journey is still found in the possession of 2 of the defendants, and they end up crashing it and abandoning the car in Lauderhill. You'll hear how the detectives are able to track the defendants and track the car down, ultimately tracking it back to, you'll recall, Tanisha Clark, who rented it to the victims, or the defendants in this case. You'll hear from witnesses that the defendants spoke to before, during, and after the homicide. You will also hear from law enforcement officers, several detectives and crime scene that investigated this case. You'll get to see the evidence that was collected. You'll hear from the associate medical examiner who performed the autopsy in this case and will give you the determination that the victim died by way of homicide and the cause of death. You'll get to see autopsy photos. And as difficult as it is, you'll understand what exactly the cause of death was and where, how the injuries led to the victim's death. You'll see crime scene photographs. You'll see video. You'll see surveillance, not only from Riva, but also when the defendants are going around and spending money, for example, at Champs or Just for Fee immediately after the homicide with the spoils of the robbery. You'll see that as well. So you will see surveillance from various parts of the investigation, physical evidence found at the properties that ties all of the defendants together. And I note that at the end of the conclusion of all the evidence that you will hear about and see, you're going to realize that this is a tapestry that you will see woven together, puts the victim squarely in the middle of the defendant's plans and actions on June 18, 2018, which cost the victim his life. And at the conclusion of this evidence, you'll find that Dedrick Williams, Michael Boatwright, and Trayvon Newsome are guilty of first-degree murder and guilty of armed robbery in this case. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you. Councilman Boatwright.
Thank you. Thank you, Judge. Good afternoon. Finally, for over 4.5 years, Michael has been accused of a terrible murder that he did not commit. For 4.5 years, he has had this accusation branded about across our community and across the world. And finally, Michael is getting his day in court. Michael Boatwright is not guilty. The police in 2018 arrested the wrong man. On behalf of Michael, on behalf of his family, on behalf of the entire team, we thank you for being jurors in this case and for your attention. I want to start by talking about the things that I think we agree on, the things that we know about this murder. June 18th, 2018, Jahseh Onfroy decided he was going to go to a place called Riva Motorsports to buy a bike. We know of only 2 people he told of his intentions: his mother, Cleopatra Bernard, and his girlfriend, Genesis Sanchez. His mother asks a man named Leonard Kerr to go with him. And you will hear that she had never done this before, that this was a new decision that she had made. But Leonard Kerr goes along with Mr. Onfroy. You will hear that Leonard Kerr and Cleopatra Bernard, again, Mr. Onfroy's mom, go to the bank in Coconut Creek, the Bank of America, together. There they meet Mr. Onfroy. Mr. Onfroy takes out $50,000 in cash, and Mr. Kerr and Mr. Onfroy then proceed to Riva Motorsports. You will see the video of Mr. Onfroy and Mr. Kerr arriving at Riva Motorsports. You will see the BMW that Mr. Onfroy is driving pull into the parking lot. You will see the 2 of them walking into the store together. You will see the 2 of them conversing with folks within the store, mostly Mr. Onfroy. Shortly after Mr. Onfroy and Leonard Kerr arrive at Riva Motorsports, you will see a Dodge Journey also arrive at that location. It's a few minutes later. And you will see on the surveillance video 2 men get out of that Dodge Journey. One of them was Dedrick Williams. One of them was a man named Robert Allen. You will see them on the video very clear as day. That is the 2 men who get out of the car, the Journey. You will see them walk into Riva Motorsports, and you will see the 2 of them essentially go through multiple rooms in Riva Motorsports. And you will see the two of them go to a cash register, kind of near the back of the store, where Dedrick engages with the clerk to buy a mask. You will see on the video, while the two of them are there, Dedrick sees somebody that he knows, sees a man named Keith Grayley, a man who is tall and who is skinny. And you will see the interaction that the two of them have together. And it is an elongated interaction that these two men have together. Eventually, you will see Dedrick effectuate the purchase of the mask, and you will see the three of them, Dedrick Williams, Keith Grayley, and Robert Allen, leave the store together. At this point, you will see Robert Allen and Dedrick Williams go back towards the Dodge Journey, and you will see Keith Grayley kind of walk off across the parking lot. I'm going to ask you to pay very close attention during the video of that man, Keith Grayley, and everything that he does that is captured on surveillance video. In any event, you will see the Dodge Journey then pull out of the Riva parking lot and go across the street. At no point will you see Michael Boatwright on surveillance video. You won't see them. You won't see anything that looks like Michael Boatwright. It doesn't exist. You won't see it. You will see the Dodge Journey at that point go essentially back into a parking spot across the street where there is a home. And you will see the Dodge Journey sit there for an extended period of time. Meanwhile, Mr. Onfroy and Mr. Kerr are still in Riva Motorsports. They're still, I guess, discussing whether they're going to buy something. And the Dodge Journey sits there. But it doesn't just sit there and nothing happens. Two very important things happen while the Dodge Journey is in that spot across the street. One, a second car pulls up and parks next to the Dodge Journey. And you will see that on the surveillance video. You will see someone get out of that second vehicle, and you will see that person open up the trunk and remove something from the trunk. Now the view is blocked a little bit. There's trees there, so it's not easy to see. You can't see who that person is. You can't see anything about them. But what you will see is somebody get out of the car, somebody open the trunk, and then him or her kind of move around there in that area. You will then see a third vehicle come. And at this point, we've got the Dodge Journey and we've got an SUV that are kind of parked next to each other. You will see a third vehicle come and park in the street behind those first two vehicles. And you will see some sort of interaction between somebody from those two vehicles and the third vehicle that pulls up directly behind them. Again, at this point, we're using Riva surveillance video, and it's capturing something both across the parking lot and across the street. So it's small. You can't see faces, but you will see very distinctly those three separate cars there across the street. Meanwhile, you will see that Mr. Onfroy apparently decides not to buy a bike, or decides to leave at that point to do something else before buying a bike. We don't know. But you will see Mr. Onfroy and Mr. Kerr walk out of Riva, go towards their BMW. The Journey is still across the street. You will see the BMW go to exit the Riva Motorsports parking lot area. And you'll see there's essentially, there's like the driveway to come out, and there are these fences on either side of the driveway. Just as the BMW comes to pull out to leave, you will see the Journey come out of the parking spot that it's in, and you will see the Journey come and park directly in front of the BMW, essentially pinning it in. And in the next few seconds is when Mr. Onfroy lost his life. You will see two masked gunmen get out of the Journey. You will see them both go into the driver's side door, the driver's side window. The window was down. And you will see there is a struggle between both of those masked gunmen and Mr. Onfroy. Right? And the struggle, it lasts a number of seconds. This isn't a bang-bang thing. There's a back and forth that you will see on that video between both of those masked gunmen and Mr. Onfroy. And you will see very clearly that they all make physical contact with one another. And that's going to be important for something later on. You will see Mr. Kerr, who was in the passenger seat, almost from the moment that the gunman got out of the van. You will see Mr. Kerr flee. You'll see him, the door flies open, and he runs away. You'll see there's a struggle. You'll see one of the gunmen go around to the other side of the BMW. So now there's two people on essentially either side of Mr. Onfroy. And at that point, you will see a gunman take a step back and fire at Mr. Onfroy. The two gunmen then get back into the Journey. The Journey leaves the area. At no time will you see Mr. Boatwright, because he wasn't there. You will not see the faces of either of those gunmen. You will not see any identifying characteristics of those gunmen. And I want to be very clear about, with Mr. Boatwright's trial, the question that you are going to be asked. You will see two people from that journey go into the store, Dedrick Williams and Robert Allen. Neither of those are Michael Boatwright. The state is going to try to convince you that one of those masked men was Michael Boatwright. They won't be able to do that.
Objection argumentative.
The evidence will not show that, because Michael wasn't there. The evidence is going to show on June 18th of 2018 at 4 o'clock, Michael was home. He was asleep in his bedroom at 1617 Northwest 15th Street, in a home that he shared with his grandmother. He was not in Riva Motorsports, and he was not in that Dodge Journey. You will see.
Objection, gentlemen, please, no sidebar.
I put too much hot sauce in this, dude. It hurt. My face is leaking.
Councilman, proceed.
Thank you, Judge. So, as I was saying, at 4 o'clock, June 18th, 2018 is the time of this murder. At that time, Michael was home at 1617 Northwest 15th Street in Fort Lauderdale. He was at home, at the home that he shared with his grandmother, a woman named Nadine Isaac. You will see, let's talk about the Dodge Journey and what happens with that Dodge Journey after it leaves Rita Motorsports. You will see the Dodge Journey appear on surveillance video a number of different times in different parts of the county after the murder. You will see, the first time you will see it appears at 4:25 p.m. You will see the Journey pull up on a road next to an apartment complex called the Driftwood Apartments. And you will hear that that is the area where Robert Allen, again, the man that we see in the surveillance video with Dedrick, where Robert Allen lived at that time.
I wonder if there's a
But you'll see the
Morningwood
Journey doesn't turn
apartment
into
somewhere.
Driftwood Motorsports. You will see that it turns away, or excuse me, it doesn't turn into the Driftwood apartment complex. It turns away from the Driftwood. And you do not see the Journey again for another hour. And it was in that hour between 4:25 and 5:30 that Michael comes into the picture. The Journey went to a number of different places, but it went to Michael's home. And Michael, at that point, came into the came into the Journey. And you will hear that that was because Robert Allen asked him to park the Journey at the Driftwood apartment complex. And at 5:30, you will see the Journey pull into the Driftwood Apartments. You will see a park at the Driftwood Apartments, and you will see two men on surveillance video get out of the Journey. This is now an hour and a half after the homicide. And you will see the two men that get out of the Journey at that point. One of them is very clearly Michael Boatwright. You'll see that he's wearing shorts, he's wearing a t-shirt, he's wearing a backwards cap. You will see him walk right in front of the surveillance video at between 5:30 and 5:31 p.m. Now you will hear that Michael's home is just a very short few miles away in Fort Lauderdale from the Driftwood apartment complex. They're close together. And you will see that when Michael is on that surveillance video, that neither him nor the man that he is with are carrying anything that looks like a gun. They're not carrying anything that looks like money. They're not carrying anything that looks like a Louis Vuitton bag. You will get to see Michael's demeanor as he's very kind of lazily walking on that sidewalk. It is not the video of a man who has just committed a murder. The evidence will show that night that Michael was with, at different parts of that night, both Robert Allen and Trayvon Newsome. The evidence will show that Michael took some very stupid photographs with some money that Robert Allen had. I don't want to hide that from you. You will absolutely see those photographs. And the evidence will show that at some point, Michael learned that someone named XXXTentacion had been shot and killed. And you will see that much later, that Michael starts to get nervous about the fact that he moved the car, that he handled some money after the homicide occurred. And you will see in his phone, from his phone download, that he Googled accessory to murder. Accessory to murder. And I submit to you that those searches in the phone are very strong evidence of Michael's innocence. The state is alleging that he was the shooter in this case. And yet the evidence will show that his phone searched the term accessory to murder. He knew he had been in the Journey both before and after the murder, and he knew that he had moved the Journey after the murder. So in his mind, he starts to have questions about what accessory to murder means. 2 days later, June 20th, 2018, Dedrick Williams is arrested, and Robert Allen, who knows he's also on the surveillance video, starts wondering, could I be next? And Robert asks Michael to go to Georgia with him. And the two of them go to Georgia together. You heard in the state's opening, they said two men went to Georgia. Robert and Michael went to Georgia together. And you will hear that Robert Allen, who knew that he had been on that surveillance video and knew that what his role in this homicide was, you will hear that he stayed up in Georgia. And law enforcement had to come get him up in Georgia. Michael did not. Michael came home. He came back. When he gets Robert up there, he comes back to Fort Lauderdale, and he comes back to 1617 Northwest 15th Street in the home that he had been living in. You will hear on July 5th of 2018, Michael is pulled over by police, and he's arrested, and he's eventually charged with this murder that he did not commit. Let's talk a little bit about how the police got there. All right? I want to talk about their investigation. I will remind you that this was the summer of, this is the Broward Sheriff's Office that was investigating this homicide. This was the summer of 2018. Scott Israel was the sheriff. And the Broward Sheriff's Office was under an extraordinary amount of pressure to solve this crime. Their credibility as an institution was at stake. And then all of a sudden we have a celebrity who has been murdered. And they wanted to solve that crime as quickly as they possibly could. So, BSO sees the surveillance video in Riva, and they learn that a Instagram account by the name of Tattoo Man Chucky has Dedrick's Instagram account, and they see that the person in the surveillance video is wearing these very distinct orange slides. Orange, they're like Crocs or sandals, but very distinct orange. And police see on Instagram, Dedrick Williams has these very distinct orange slides. And police go to Dedrick's house, they search his house, they search his car, and they arrest Mr. Williams. The entire search of Dedrick's house, they do not find anything linking Michael Boatwright. The entire search of Dedrick's car, they do not find anything linked to Michael Boatwright. It is at this point that police learn three very important facts. One, they learn that the woman who actually rented that Dodge Journey, the Journey that we see in the surveillance video, was a woman named Toni Robinson. And she tells police that the day before the murder, that she was with two other individuals who rented the car with her. She says one of them was Robert Allen. She says one of them was someone named Boatwright. So that was essentially instance one for VSO regarding someone named Boatwright. Two, police search Dedrick Williams' cell phone. And in Dedrick Williams' cell phone, they find a name, Lil Boat, with the phone number 754-207-1410. And third, the reason that Michael sits in this chair is police get the phone records for 754-207-1410. And those phone records ping to a tower near Riva Motorsports. And from there, with BSO, it was full-on tunnel vision. A phone that Michael used was at the scene of the crime. He must have been there. And so on July 5th, 2018, Michael's in a car. He is stopped. He is arrested. There are two phones that are found in his possession. And police search one of them that has the number 754-207-1410. In this phone, they find some photos that Michael had taken after the murder. And they find his Google searches. And that was essentially the case against Michael Boatwright for 4 years. It was the phone, and it was the photographs. It assumed a whole number of things. It assumed that that phone was actually in Michael's possession at the time of the murder. And it assumed that only someone who had committed a murder would be searching about XXXTentacion, this celebrity who had just been murdered in Broward County, and most of Broward County had heard about it. In fact, there was evidence that police ignored about the phone. There was evidence that that phone was not in Michael's possession that day. And that comes from two very important sources. One was Tony Robinson. Tony Robinson is the woman who rented the car. And she told police that after the Dodge Journey was in a crash, she received a phone call from Boatwright, not from Boatwright's phone. She says that she received a call from Michael Boatwright, who was using Robert Allen's phone on June 18, 2018. And you will see evidence in that phone that a number of other men have used that phone before. That this was a phone that was used by multiple people in Michael's community, that it was not just Michael's phone. But police ignored that. They had this location information, they had these photographs, and they had a crime that they needed to that they needed to solve in a short period of time. And Michael was arrested. And that's where the case stood for 4 years, until last year, the state made Robert Allen a deal. And they said, if you plead guilty and you testify against Michael, we will change your charge from murder in the first degree to murder in the second degree. And you will be able to one day get out of prison. Robert Allen is the only person that you will hear from that puts Michael Boatwright at Riva Motorsports on June 18, 2018. And he has a whole host of reasons to lie. In law school, they teach us don't promise something in opening statement that you can't deliver on during the trial. Well, let me be very clear. If Robert Allen testifies in this case, he will lie, and we will prove that he is lying. Police ignored an extraordinary amount of evidence that Michael was not the killer, was not involved in this case. A day after his arrest, the BSO searches Michael's home. They go through that home with a fine-tooth comb. They pull out a whole bunch of stuff from the home. They do not find a murder weapon. They do not find lots of money. They take a whole bunch of clothing, pants, shirts. None of that has any of Jahseh Onfroy's DNA on it. Police process all of the BMW. So they take the BMW that Mr. Onfroy was in, they tow it back to their facility, and they process that whole thing. And you will see that Mr. Boatwright's fingerprints aren't on the outside of that BMW, they are on the inside of that BMW. Mr. Boatwright's DNA is not on the outside of that BMW, is not on the inside of that BMW. Nothing on the BMW links to Michael Boatwright. You will hear that police processed Mr. Onfroy's body, right, his clothing. They took swabs from underneath his fingernails. They could see that he had been struggling with both of the masked men in this case. And you will hear that Michael's DNA is nowhere to be found. You will hear, again, the murder weapon in this case was never found. You will hear that no money was ever found in Michael's possession. Police, you heard during the state's opening that Leonard Kerr could hear the men who were masked making demands of Jahseh Onfroy. Could hear his voice, clearly. Police never did any kind of voice lineup with Leonard Kerr to try to match it in any way to Mr. Boatwright. You will hear that right after the murder, in the moments after the murder, police received a number of leads as to who had committed this murder that were never followed up on. You will hear that police searched Mr. Onfroy's phone. That the phone that had been in Mr. Onfroy's possession was taken, it was downloaded, and it was searched. And you will see that there are a number of items in that phone that should have caused red flags to any thorough investigator that police did not follow up on. You will hear that police did extensive social media research on all 4 of the people that were charged in this case. In particular, you will see that police looked at Dedrick Williams' Instagram account. He has a very voluminous Instagram account. And there are a number of people that Dedrick posts with in photographs. There are a number of tall, young men that Dedrick was clearly close with, that he posted in photographs with. None of those men are Michael Boatwright. And you will hear about a man named Sherrod Clayton. Police learned that Sherrod Clayton was babysitting Dedrick Williams' kids at the time of this murder. And you will hear the police interviewed Sherrod Clayton. You will see that Sherrod Clayton is a tall young man. And you will hear that that Sherrod Clayton told police that in the hours after the murder, Dedrick Williams came home, and that he came home with a number of other men. And when police showed Sherrod Williams a picture of Michael Boatwright and said, "Is this one of the men that was with Dedrick after the murder?" He said no. He emphatically said no. And the police ignored him. The state is going to be able to show a number of things. They're going to be able to show that Michael had contact with that journey, that he was in that journey, both before, in the day before the murder and after the murder. They're going to be able to show that a phone that he sometimes used was at the scene of the crime at the time of the murder. And they're going to be able to show that Michael had spent time with Trayvon and Dedrick and Robert Allen after the murder. But that little bit of smoke doesn't cause a fire that can be used to convict Michael Boatwright. The state will not be able to prove to you that Michael himself was present at Riva Motorsports and that Michael himself participated in any murder. You're going to hear a lot of information in this trial. The quantity of that information will be extraordinary. Right? You've already heard a lot of information from me. The judge will tell you at the end of this trial that it isn't the amount of information that you hear, but it is the quality of that information. And for all of the information that the state will present, there will not be any hard evidence of any quality that Michael was involved in this murder. The overwhelming question that you're going to have to answer is this: are you sure, beyond all reasonable doubt, that Michael Boatwright was at Riva Motorsports on June 18, 2018, and that he participated in this murder? They won't be able to prove that to you because he wasn't there. And at the end of this case, the only true verdict based on evidence and on the law and on justice will be one of not guilty. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, before we get to the next opening statements, we're going to take about a 5-minute comfort break so the parties can use the restroom and what have you. We are going to finish the last 2 opening statements if they wish to do so, and then we'll break for lunch. But we'll take about a 5-minute comfort break here, which you can do back in that spacious jury room. But when you're ready to come out, let the deputy know that you've all had a chance to use it if you wish. And then we'll proceed again. It'll probably be about another 30, 40 minutes, and then we'll break for lunch. All right.
This dude's got plaid pants on, the other one's got a bow tie. Plaid pants and a turtleneck.
I didn't want to put something on the record, and then I'll give you guys your 5 minutes. First of all, with respect to Mr. Boatwright's motion for mistrial based on the court's instruction, I just want to put the following into the record. Citing 2, Mosley, M-O-S-L-E-Y versus State, 402 Southern 2nd, 559, out of the 1st District. And I quote pertinent part, A trial judge has a powerful tool at his disposal to protect constitutional privilege. The jury instruction has an affirmative constitutional obligation to use that tool when a defendant seeks its employment. No judge can prevent jurors from speculating about why a defendant stands mute in the face of criminal accusation, but a judge can and must, if requested to do so, use the unique power of the jury instruction to reduce that speculation to a minimum. In this case, Mosley requested jury instruction should have been given, even though the co-defendants requested that such instruction not be given. It is not reversible error to give the instruction over a defendant's objection, but it is reversible error to refuse to give an instruction when requested to do so. As the United States Supreme Court said in Carter v. Kentucky, the significance of a cautionary instruction was forcibly acknowledged in Lakeside, where the court found no constitutional error even when a no inference instruction was given over a defendant's objection. The statutory, the purpose of the instruction is to remove from the jury's deliberations any influence of unspoken adverse inferences, was deemed so important there that it outweighs the defendant's own preferred tactics. This case was favorably cited in Andrews v. State, 443 2nd 78, in stating it is reversible error to refuse to give the cautionary instruction where the defense requested, but as the majority expressly recognizes, it is not reversible error to give over a defendant's objection, and it cites to Carlton v. State, going back to 1933 as being fairly well settled law in the state of Florida. I would also look at Rosa v. State, 696 Southern 2nd, 1299, out of the 3rd District. Again, taking the same stand that in Lakeside v. Oregon, the United States Supreme Court ruled that a trial court may advise jurors not to draw an adverse inference from the defendant's failure to testify. The trial court may so instruct the jurors even if the defendant objects to such instruction. The Florida Supreme Court reached a similar conclusion in Andrews v. State, 443 Southern 2nd 78, and Grissom v. State, 492 Southern 2nd 1324. The court's comments brought the issue of the defendant's right not to testify and the fact that no inference is to be drawn therefrom to the attention of the jurors prior to any discussion by the parties. And finally, out of our own 4th District Court of Appeals, in Greevy, G-R-I-E-V-E v. State, court states, in this case, the trial judge correctly and extensively stated the law regarding defendant's right to remain silent at trial. As the Supreme Court indicated in Andrews v. State, which I previously cited, the trial court's recitation of a correct instruction on defendant's right to remain silent at trial, such as those contained in the Florida Standard Jury Instruction, is not error, even when given over the objection of a defendant. Thank you. So, use right.
Object.
My client on based on co-counsel's comments during his opening. Some of it could have been construed as prejudicial against my client, and I would move to sever this time.
I object. Okay. I mean, this is not anything that we didn't already know with respect to the inextricably intertwined evidence amongst the 3 co-defendants, including what potentially one co-defendant may argue against the other. Is actually probably expected given the type of trial that is proceeding with co-defendants. So I don't believe it rises to the level and meets the burden of severance.
Yes, I mean, I made my ruling on that. I don't think it rises to the necessity requirement of like a brute issue, and thankfully, I have and I will continue to remind the jurors that what the attorneys say, it's not evidence.
Got it.
Okay, but it's not. Thank you.
There's no one more.
Okay. Let them know when they're ready to go, and then bring them up. This all coming off your time.
You can answer the tape. Tom is Granny Joe Tony G. Was there? Ow, 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 ow. Ow, ow, ow.
All right. Do one person I can't actually see because the monitor. Sure, you're but that's all right. All right, bring him up.
Here's the rendering.
They have 3 separate lawyers or no? I really hope not. That's just annoying when they do that. It looks like it though.
Parties may be seated. Court will come to order. The parties are present. The jury panel is present. On back.
Why couldn't they just get
make an opening?
Yes, sir.
the same lawyer?
It's, good afternoon. How are you guys?
Fuck.
We met before in Moldara. I want to take this opportunity again to thank you guys for your sacrifice and for your attention. On behalf of Dedrick and on behalf of my entire team, I really thank you for your sacrifice and for your attention. This case, I was retained on this case
Hey, Patty.
almost immediately. So on June 19, 2018, I had the opportunity to, as many criminal defense attorneys and prosecutors that handle homicide cases, I was able to go to Reba. It's the first thing I did. I went to Reba. And when I got to Reba, is the first time that I understood exactly Mr. Onfroy's impact. When I got there, there was an entire block of candles and pictures, and I'm talking about the entire block. And I knew who he was, because even though I'm 50 and I like rap music and stuff, I knew who he was, I knew of his music, but I really, until I got involved in this case, I didn't understand exactly
Until he got
what
killed,
type
I
of
didn't know who he
international celebrity he was and what type of impact he had.
At all.
Now, you as jurors can be saying, well, what does that have to do with anything? And I understand that idea, because at the end of the day, a life is a life. And my life is equivalent to anybody else's life, no matter who you are, even if you are an international celebrity. But the issue is, and what you're going to see in this case, is that when it comes to law enforcement and the way that law enforcement deals with certain cases, it does matter. And they do investigate it differently. And as the case progresses, the evidence will show you that law enforcement took different steps that they wouldn't take if it was me or you or any other person. Now, to properly set the stage, and I know Mr. Kimok touched on it, and some of the stuff, I'm going to try not to be duplicitous, but forgive me if I do touch on certain topics because we are involved in a similar case. To set the stage for you, it's 2018. And he kind of touched on it. February of 2018 was the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas tragic school shooting.
I'm going to object to these comments. It's not relevant and also starting.
Like I was saying, that was a horrific, tragic incident that affected Broward County. It affected the citizens of Broward County. It affected BSO. So when you're talking about a law enforcement agency with their back against the wall and with the whole world already watching, that's where they were at in February of 2018. Then all of a sudden, arguably one of the most famous entertainers literally in the world is killed in Broward County. That's where BSO was, that's where Broward County was, and all of a sudden they need to figure this out quickly because it affects everything, and the evidence is going to show that their way to figure it out quickly is they give this case to Detective Curcio, and you're going to meet him. And he's a very experienced detective. As a matter of fact, he's the same detective that was handling the Marjorie Stoneman shooting, which we'll get into that when he's on the stand. But what they do is they try and wrap it up really quick. And I compare it to a gift wrap. Not just a regular gift wrap. I'm talking about the kind you get at Macy's, the professionally done one. That's what they want to do to make it look really nice, and so that the detective can take it to his division chief, and then it goes up the chain of command to the captain, and then that little gift wrap box, the solution to the problem, goes to the state attorney's office, eventually gets assigned to an ASA, and eventually they bring it to you. But as jurors, your job is to really look in the box and find out exactly what happened in this case. And you're going to see
What's
that
in the box?
when Mr. Kimok was talking about tunnel vision,
What's in the box?
this case was all about tunnel vision.
Ah.
Many cases that I've had, from the beginning of my career, doing misdemeanors, federal cases, state cases, prosecutors, they love to come in here and they put on their phone pointer finger. The kind you get at the Marlin Stadium.
Objection,
and they're-
argumentative, Judge.
Who's got the public defender? One of them? Does at
So,
least one of them have a public defender?
As
Is
jurors,
that-
just because
that's
they're saying that someone did
interesting.
something, your job is to really look at the evidence and find out if they did it or not. Now, the positive thing for you all and for Dedrick is that there's different types of evidence. There's testimonial evidence, which you're going to see people testifying, taking the stand, swearing to tell the truth, and testifying. There's circumstantial evidence, okay? And then there's something like video evidence. And the good thing about video evidence is that you all, sitting here, can look at a video, and you don't need ASA Shields, or you don't need Detective Curcio to tell you what a video is. You have two eyes and you can figure it out. And in this case, and the evidence will show, when you look at that video, okay, and you're going to see how Detective Curcio testifies, I want you all to remember this moment and to think about the distinctions in what a seasoned homicide detective is telling you what a video shows and what you all are looking at, and see the distinction and ask yourself why. Why would a seasoned homicide detective make those distinctions and testify that way when I'm seeing with my own two eyes? And you're going to figure out that it's part of the gift wrap, the solution. Let's figure this out quick because we need to give everybody, the whole world, a solution, a resolution to the nightmare that was when Mr. Onfroy was killed, because no doubt about it, for Broward County, for everybody involved, it was a nightmare. Now the video, it's going to show Dedrick there. Okay, you're going to see it for yourself. Now, what the prosecution has hitched their wagon to, okay, is Robert Allen. And Mr. Kim also touched on Robert Allen. And I'm here to tell you that Robert Allen, first of all, he sat in jail for 4 years. It's not like if that guy was like, all of a sudden wanted to, hey, I want to do the right thing. No, he sat in jail for 4 years, okay? And then eventually, he came forward and he's giving multiple different versions of what occurred. And when you finally see him testifying, and you finally see us cross-examine him, remember and ask yourself, can I convict Dedrick if I don't believe Robert Allen? The answer is no. Robert Allen is the one that puts him in the car. Robert Allen puts him behind the wheel. Robert Allen satisfies a lot of what the prosecution needs. And the fact that they need that from him, judge him for yourself. Judge him for yourself, listen to him, and then you ask yourself if I can believe him and whether or not I can convict someone on his testimony. The video, which Mr. Kim went, he was pretty thorough about his explanation of the video. The next time you see that dodge, it's in an accident. And it's in an accident like it got T-boned by another car. Totally unexpected. Was my client in the car? No, my client's not in the car. Now, tunnel vision is a very dangerous thing in prosecuting cases and in law enforcement investigation. Why? Well, I compare it to driving a motorcycle, which I never have done. My mom never let me do it, but like driving a motorcycle, I'm envisioning like a really fast one. You're trying to get from point A to point B in the fastest amount of time. So what happens? You lose everything in the peripheral. Okay? And what happened in this case is that they did that. They wanted to solve the case, resolve the case, close the case so quickly that they refused to listen to any other evidence that didn't comport with what they wanted, what they believed, or what they wanted their narrative to be. The evidence will show. The evidence will show.
That's argumentative. What the evidence will show. I got you.
So listen, you're gonna hear from Detective Curcio, and I'm gonna cross-examine him, and I'm gonna get a lot of things out. But for instance, when they around 2021, the evidence will show that Tanel Carter, Dedrick's ex-girlfriend, came forward and said, "Hey, I want to make sure that you guys know that Dedrick wasn't driving. Now she basically was altering her statement." And you would say to yourself, wow, that's big, right? That's a big thing, because this is a very important case. This is, as you can imagine, one of Broward County's more important cases simply because it involves a celebrity, which shouldn't be what it is, okay? And you have one of their main witnesses, one of the witnesses that they're relying on to put him in the car, that they're relying on to put him behind the wheel. She comes forward, and the testimony will show, and the evidence will show, that they didn't do anything. They didn't bring her in to re-interview her, to talk to her, nothing. Because it didn't comport with the narrative that they wanted to pursue, okay? In the same breath, before X died, he said, if anybody kills me, it's Drake. And do you think that for one moment, here today, days after the event, he's killed by 2 masked men, right? He came on social media and said, guys, before he dies, if anybody kills me, it's Drake. Do you think in that time span that they went and they addressed him, they talked to him? No. Do you think sitting here today, years later, any detective has ever asked, Drake or anybody like that? No, they never did that. So you ask yourself, how could that be? If any of us is involved in, God forbid, in a murder, and you say, hey, it's so-and-so, you better believe so-and-so is going to get investigated. But in this case, they didn't do it. They didn't do it because it didn't comport with their version and their narrative. And as law enforcement, I think that they have the obligation to do so. Another issue. And the evidence will show that before Mr. Onfroy was killed, there was an individual by the name of Antonio King, aka 600 Breezy, that posted on YouTube saying, when I get off of probation, sidebar. Beyond for 600 Breezy. Like I was saying, this individual, Antonio King, 600 Breezy, literally came here to Florida and took videos by Mr. Onfroy's house, threatening. Okay? Fast forward, he's shot by 2 masked men. Do you think BSO ever investigated this? Do you think anyone in Broward County ever, went to ask him any questions? To this day, years later, that's never happened. So ask yourself, why? Why would they not investigate it? Because it doesn't comport to the narrative that they want. And that's going to be a motif in this case. You're going to see that it's consistently the same issue. It's not what they want to hear. It's not what they want to hear. So they don't investigate it, and they have an obligation to do so. You're going to hear from Cleopatra Bernard, Mr. Onfroy's mom, and she's going to sit there, and she's going to tell you that the reason that she wanted security with Mr. Onfroy on the day that he was shot was because of the issues that he had with Drake and Migos. She's going to tell you that. Okay. Now, what issues does she have? There's issues where Migos was attacked by him, but the important thing is that the mom is going to tell you that that's why I wanted that security with him. Okay? So, do you think anybody's ever talked to them? No, and that's unacceptable. Curcio himself is going to sit there and tell you, okay, the Crime Stoppers, did any name consistently come up? He's going to tell you, yeah, Drake. He's going to tell you that. But they never investigated it. And you know what? Celebrity is not a cloak of invisibility. If you're part of a case, you're part of a case. And they should have. Now listen, I mean, look, blinders is for racehorses, okay? It's not for detectives. It's not for attorneys. And it certainly isn't for jurors. So all I'm asking you is, as a jurors, okay? My job as an attorney is to ask questions, and your job as jurors is also to ask questions. Okay? I mean, you can't really verbally do it like I'm doing it, but you can ask questions to yourself, okay? And inquire, why did this happen this way, okay? And I'm looking forward to spending these weeks and these months together with you so we can figure out what the truth is in this case. And I feel really blessed to be here for Dedrick. I feel really honored to represent him, and I'm looking forward to this time that we have together to get to the truth. Because when we get to the truth, you guys are going to find that Dedrick is not guilty of these crimes. Thank you so much.
Counsel for Mr. Newsome, wish to open?
I will, thank you, Judge.
You may.
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, congratulations if you're happy you've been selected for this jury. My condolences if you're not, but we know you're going to do a fabulous job, and we appreciate the responses you gave us. Trayvon Newsome wasn't there that day. He is an innocent man wrongfully accused because of the choice of people he hung out with, and guilt by association, and an investigation that didn't look into all the cracks and crevices that needed to be investigated. Robert Allen is the unfortunate friend of Trayvon Newsome. Unfortunate in the sense that when he was dead to rights, caught involved in a first-degree murder, on video, no question, it's him, it's his face, he's there, he's involved. The police looked into his social media and found friends that might fit the description of the people that you see in that video jump out of that car with guns. But you cannot tell for 1 second who those two people are that jump out of that car. So what you have to do is look at what the evidence will show. Now, my opening statement and all opening statements are supposed to be about what the evidence will show. But in this case, I'm going to tell you what the evidence will not show. The evidence will not show that any firearm was ever recovered that could be matched or linked to Trayvon Newsome. The evidence will not show that anything from a thorough search of his home where he lived with his father and his sister, including digging up his entire backyard because they heard the money was buried there, turned up anything that would link Trayvon Newsome to this terrible crime. The evidence will not show that Trayvon has ever made a statement of admission or any statement that would link him to this terrible crime to any third party or anyone else for that matter. The evidence will show no DNA whatsoever found on the body of Mr. Onfroy or on that car. Although you see a tussle going on, you see they allege he goes around the car and gets actually into it, no DNA whatsoever linked to Trayvon Newsome. No fingerprints linked to Trayvon Newsome. No cell phone evidence places Trayvon Newsome anywhere near that scene of the crime that day. No credible eyewitnesses. No proof Trayvon was ever at Riva that day. No less that he's that shadowy person you see in the video jump out of the car and appear to brandish a firearm. Now, the state has told you that there's evidence found at the homes of the defendants. Not Trayvon. Nothing. So be careful when the words "they" are used in this trial, because it's not Trayvon that they're talking about. The vast majority of times they'll tell you that. You will see a video of Trayvon later on in that car, because he knows these guys. Mr. Allen testified that Trayvon had been staying at his house for a few days before this. This is his friend who's turned on him. And you'll hear that later on, and you'll see that an hour or two after this terrible thing happened, Trayvon's in that Dodge Journey. These guys share everything. Phones, and photos of each other, the car. They're living together. But he is not the person that was at the scene that day participating in this homicide. And the vast majority of evidence will show that when you look at it reasonably and without the blinders on. My co-counsel so aptly just pointed out law enforcement seems to have about this case. You'll see he and Mr. Boatwright casually get out of the car, walk into an apartment, casually walk back, get into the car again. Not the slightest sign from them not knowing they're being observed or that later on the jury's going to look at what's going on. Nothing to suggest that this terrible crime had just happened or that he has been a part of it in any way. And you've already heard that that Dodge Journey is in a car accident shortly later that day. But what you haven't heard yet is that Trayvon goes to that scene of that accident because he's got a license to claim that car back. You've been in a horrible murder, attempted robbery in that car 2 hours before, and you go to where that car is now in the hands of law enforcement and say, hey, can I take the car back? My buddy's rented this car. And by the way, he had nothing to do with renting the car. But Mr. Allen asked him to go and collect the car because he's the only one with a license. Would he do that? Is that evidence of guilty conscience or exactly the opposite? Use your common sense. The evidence will show that the state's star witness, their cooperating witness, was there at Riva that day. Unmistakable video evidence. He had no choice but to eventually admit his guilt and to testify against the 3 people the police had already figured may have been involved. You heard 2 people took off and went to Georgia. Trayvon Newsome found out the police were looking for him. His father came and hired me, and we voluntarily surrendered him to Detective Curcio. because we knew we'd have our day in trial, someday down the road. And the evidence was never going to be able to prove he was there, because he wasn't. When you see Robert Allen testify, when you look at him, when you have a chance to look at his demeanor, how he handles himself, the first thing I think you're going to realize, and it's going to show you, is this is not a person you would ever trust in life if you ran into him on the street. You would immediately be leery of him. Never trust him. But then when you hear he's made different statements along the way, trying to get his statement consistent with the theory that the state wants to present here, you're going to know that is no one you would ever believe in any fashion, particularly not in a courtroom, when he's testifying in a murder trial. You will find the sum total of Robert Allen's involvement in this. You'll come to the conclusion he's not reliable at all, not credible at all, and you'll follow the court's instructions and disregard his testimony in total. That is the only testimony in this case that you'll hear that comes anywhere near making it look like Trayvon Newsome had something to do with this. Just the one witness. No physical evidence whatsoever. The other evidence, common sense will tell you goes in the other direction. He would not have done what he did. He also posed for some stupid photographs with money. And they're going to use that to try to show his guilt. But you'll see there's been many other times when these guys have posed with money. They impress girls, they impress their friends, they act like they have more than they have. Social media. You'll see that they're all involved in social media heavily. And they do and say stupid things in social media. Posing with that money, whether he knew it was taken in a robbery earlier the day or not, you won't hear any testimony. But it doesn't establish anything, because he'd done it many times in the past. In opening, the state says that the evidence will show that the two co-defendants who went into Reba, that are there on video, were communicating by cell phone with the people in the car. Not Trayvon. His phone doesn't have any hits on it, anywhere near Reba that day. Solid evidence that common sense will tell you he wasn't there. They bring their cell phones everywhere. Somebody has a cell phone, whether it's their own or they've loaned it out. Nothing to link to Trayvon Newsome. Again, what the evidence will not show. No DNA, no fingerprints, no cell phone evidence, no credible eyewitnesses. Nothing that you would expect, no cell phone hits, nothing that you would expect law enforcement could find if in fact Trayvon was that person. You've heard that he's denied his involvement in this case, that he's presumed to be innocent. And the evidence that the state has will come nowhere near close to eliminating that presumption of innocence. But thank you again for your attention. I won't have a whole lot to say to you during this trial, because not a lot of this applies to Trayvon at all. Take your notes. Be careful at what applies to who. Always ask the question, if someone says they, do they really mean Trayvon? Because the vast majority of times, when they say they, there's no evidence Trayvon's even in the statement. Thank you very much.
Thank you, counsel. Ladies and gentlemen, at this time we will break for lunch before I send you out. You'll hear the familiar words. You're not to form any definite or fixed opinions in merits of this case, so you hear all the evidence, arguments, counsel, instructions, and the law by me until that time. Do not discuss cases even among yourselves. During the course of the trial, I'll take regular recesses during which we separate, go about your personal affairs. During those recesses, you shall not discuss cases with anyone or permit anyone to say anything to you or your practice about the case. Anyone attempts to, tell me you're on jury, ask you to stop. Leave them advised by deputies. If you see counsel, witnesses, defendants, anyone else associated with the case in the hallway, they will ignore you. They are not being rude. They are following the court's orders. It is now 10 minutes of 2. I'll give you an hour and 10. We will reconvene at 3 o'clock sharp. Form up at the 7th floor reception area. You'll be brought back. Have a great lunch. Thank you. All right, parties present, jurors are absent. Anything else to discuss?
We'll look at the rule at this time.
Rule of sequestration is invoked. All parties, any witnesses that may testify should not be any longer in the courtroom.
Judge, could we also just specify, since this case is being live streamed, that the parties should instruct their witnesses that they may not watch it?
Yes, thank you. So all parties should instruct their witnesses that the rule of sequestration also includes not watching any live stream presentation of this court proceeding.
And Judge, once again, the defense would request the state would kindly let us know which witnesses they intend to call after lunch.
Did you wish to do so?
No, sir.
Okay. Well, let me only ask this. So we're coming back at 3. It'll be state call you first. How many witnesses do you have lined up for today?
3.
All right. Of course, with direct and 3 potential crosses, I don't know that we can ever know exactly how long that will go, but do you reasonably anticipate that we'll get through those 3, or you've got one sort of in reserve, or?
I believe we can get to those 3. I don't have any other after those 3.
Okay, so regardless, we won't go further than that. It's my hope that we get 2 good hours of testimony in. We'll break at 5 or as near to it as we can. I won't go beyond 5:15. But if we finish at 4:45, no one's, I'm not going to ask you to call someone for 3 minutes of testimony.
And anticipated start time for tomorrow?
10:30?
Okay.
Yeah, we're gonna pretty much be keeping that 10:30 scheduled for them, meaning you guys should be here about quarter after to deal with anything that comes up in between.
And Judge, I just reiterate my request when the state says we're going to call a certain witness. Let's take a couple of minutes so they can go through these boxes and pull out what we need, so we're not all shuffling while they're starting their examination.
Just a couple of minutes I don't know about, but certainly you have the time from when they come in, they're coming up here, they have to have their oath administered. First question is going to be what their name is and stuff during that
Do that
time.
with the jury present, Judge, because it's not going to be a good. We have tons of information here, 200 witnesses. How are we going to sort that out in front of the jurors? I wish
Let's see how it goes. Thank you.
Okay, Judge.
Proclame to the manager, we're back.
Alright, I feel better. I'll get out of here, y'all. Probably won't be doing this case. I'll be off here for now, I think. I need a break. I'm probably not going to cover this trial. It seems I'm just not. I don't want to listen to that many lawyers talk about the same thing. It'll get too confusing. Gotta take it easy now. You hear? Till next time.